Today we are going to discuss about the basics of how to use the arrays and what are the do's and do nots of the array. Now already we have learned how the different variables can be used in a C program. Say A, B, C are the names of three different variables that we have declared to be of integer type. Now here the compiler will attempt to allocate the memory to each of the variables A, B, C individually for everyone as 4 bytes. Now our system under discussion is of 32-bit system, so it is 4 bytes. But it is not necessary that the 4 bytes given to A will be just consecutive to the 4 bytes given for the B. But among these 4 bytes of A, these must be consecutive. System will ensure that one. But the memory of A and B, they may not be consecutive. Now, if to solve our some problems, the memory to be allocated for these three variables need to be consecutive, then we have to use the arrays. So, array will allow us to reserve some memory location in a consecutive way. So this is the typical syntax of declaring an array. So we have to give the array name that will be used as a name for an entire group of some elements that are of size number of counts, and all these variables will be of integer type. So very commonly we refer the array as a group of homogeneous data. Now here this size always must be a constant in a C language. Some advanced programming language that came after C allows this one as a variable or some variable expressions, but in C language this must be a constant, and that must be an integer also. So we may define an array of floating point variables whose name is f1, but it is a group of elements. So this will reserve, by this instruction the compiler will attempt to reserve the memory location for 5 floating point variables in a consecutive way. In turn, practically it will reserve 20 bytes of memory location, because float takes 4 bytes. After we have reserved the memory location, we can use these 5 variables as if they are independent variables also. So let us go for integer types. If some values are stored already in A and B, we can find out the summation of them and can store in a variable C. Now, if these 3 variables are not independent variables but array members, then we possibly may write this statement: array name So this statement and these statements are equivalent. So we can use each of the array members as an individual variables also if necessary. But though in our application we normally use the array to hold a collection of data, but that is not the only one use of the arrays. So there are many other issues, inner-line issues related to this array, but at this moment we cannot discuss those things. That will be again revisited when the pointers will be introduced, because this array is nothing but finally we will see that the pointer, that is nothing but again a array, memory address. But while using these arrays in our program, we must be very careful, because we are writing the code in a high-level language that will not be understood by the computer hardware. It will be understood, this program will be understood by the compiler. So we are not writing the program for the computer's hardware. We are writing the program for the compiler. Compiler will convert those things to the machine level based on the architecture on which this program is compiled. And normally that part is not visible to the programmer. But up to the assembly language level, we can visualize. Now, by this statement, F1 within square bracket 5, as a programmer, I have requested 5 floating-point variables to be reserved, and their memory must be consecutive. But what are the names of those 5 individual variables? They are from F1 index 0 up to F1 index 4. So these 5 variables, remember we have said size is 5 here, but the last index that we can use is 4. So while using the individual members of the array, we have to subscript them within a square bracket, and this is called as the index of the element. The smallest index, possible index of an array is 0, and the largest index will be the size that we have defined minus 1. So here I have given the size as 5, so maximum possible is 4. Now if within our program, if we write some statement like this one, F1 assume that AF is a floating-point variable, and to which I am trying to copy the content of the index minus 1 of the F1, and this statement will lead to an error, because the compiler will find that minus 1 is an invalid index for the array. Now if this was given in the compilation time as minus 1, then compiler can detect this error and it will be reported to you. But if this is controlled by a variable, like say I assign some value here, in that case compiler have no way to find out what is the value given at this moment during the compilation time, because value of I will be coming when the program is executing. So at that time also, if the index that I am specifying here, the value of I that has been sent in my program, is a non-negative number, then it will never catch it is an error. But anytime if it gets a value that is negative, then it will represent the invalid index and encountering error, and finally your program will be terminated. So the lower bound, that is called a lower bound. So arrays index can be started from 0 to n minus 1. So 0 is the lower bound. The violation of lower bound can be checked by the compiler at the compilation time or by the system at the runtime. But there is no way that by default the system can trace whether the upper bound is violated or not, because the array size may be different for different users, and based on the problem's requirement for the same program also I may have different types, different sizes of arrays. So for some array, whatever the size is invalid, for some other one it may be valid, because I have two arrays. So one size is of 10, other size is 20. So for the value 15 is a valid index for the second array, but invalid for the first array. So those kind of things cannot be recorded in the hardware. That's why the system is unable to trace the violation of upper bound. So that's why it is the responsibility of the programmer to check whether the upper bound is violated or not before any kind of access. Otherwise, your program may lead to some illegal memory operation that will result in a termination of the program. And you just simply try some very small programs for testing these things. You may try to declare a variable, array type variable, and enter them the values to each of the reserved location and try to display them. At the same time, you just try to enter some data to some invalid location. Say you have declared an array of size 5 and trying to enter the value or display the value from or to a location of index 7. Check what happens. So majority of the cases, you will see that your program is not, so don't have any other error. If the other errors are not there, the program will be compiled and you can run the program also. There will be no difficulty. But that does not ensure that your program is correct. At this moment, this is executing. At some other situation, if the memory that is reserved for you is exceeding a certain limit, then that may not be executing at all. So the array's upper bound checking is the pure responsibility of the programmer. So we'll continue this array in the next video. So try some small programs so that array's upper bound checking you can test. Thank you.